right. We are now good. We're connected on Periscope. We're doing the various connections right now.
Great. Long hair and headphones.
Okay, people are starting to come in. We'll go through our intro rigmarole, which takes about 5 minutes tops. And then we'll bring you on the camera and let you know when you're on, sir.
Cool.
Facebook peeps are starting to filter in. Hello, everybody. Hello, Jane. Hello, Jason Reed. Tracy Shank. We have quite a show for everybody today. We have Ray in the magic waiting room. A is on her way into the studio right now. So, you know what? It is 6:01. We're just going to go to Maine. You guys can all look at my beautiful face. Hello, everyone. Hello, A's coming in right now. Welcome to SIGLERinPLACE. It is December 1st. I am now, my birthday was yesterday. Happy birthday to me. It was grand. We have a great guest on today. We're super, super excited. Nerding out a little bit. Let's see. We doing our hellos. Real quick, we're going to get through the basic stuff so we can get to the good stuff quick. Our cocktail today is a Saint Germain cocktail, which should be.
We'll have those on Thursday.
Oh, let me unmute you, baby girl. There you go. Okay. Try again, sweetie.
I said it was supposed to be a Saint Germain cocktail, but we had a little bit of trouble.
Let's wait till you get the mic, and then we'll go from there.
I should know this as an audiobook narrator
Watch
myself.
out for that.
But I do not.
Okay, and your coasters are right behind there.
So
Thank you, everybody, for all the belated birthday. Michael, Richard, Brian, Kimberly, Mario, Julie. What's up? Clovar, Shannon, Brittany.
Hey, Clovar.
The
Hey,
crowd
guys.
is here. Bruce Press. Okay, so our
Can
drink.
I have a little bit more noise
Of
in my
course you
headphones?
can, baby girl.
Thanks.
How's this?
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so check your mic for me, AK.
Test 1 2. Test 1 2. Hello, everybody out there in SIGLERinPLACE land. How are you guys?
All right.
So glad to see you. So nice to see you, Ray.
Good to see you.
Now that we're done talking about the Siglocktail, which is up at A's YouTube page, we did not post it at Facebook today, but it is at scottsigler.com. Let's get back to the main. Here's our lovely faces. And ladies and gentlemen, our guest for today is none other than Ray Porter. Hello, Ray.
Hi.
Hello. Happy belated birthday.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We are going to chat with Ray for a little bit, and then we will be going to Ray is going to read for us. It's going to be great. We're very excited about that.
Well, we hope.
We hope.
Yeah, we
Ray,
definitely are excited about that. I've spent a goodly amount of the day today looking at non-Sigler Ray Porter fans. Like people, not necessarily people who don't like Scott, but mostly people who do. And it's so lovely. You know, if you guys don't know this, if you love Ray Porter's work, there's a website, there's a Facebook page called the 50 Shades of Ray. And I hugely suggest that you join it because there's such a delightful community. And
really nice people.
Really nice people. They do great art.
Yeah.
They do all this fun art. And this is a thing that I actually didn't know until researching this episode, that people make art of you as the characters that they hear you, which they can only hear you do.
Yeah, it's humbling and kind of awe-inspiring. I've always been a very frustrated artist. Like, I wish I could draw, and I just can't. And I see some of the art that people are doing on Twitter for Darkseid,
For sure.
and I'm like blown away by their ability. You know,
And it's just such a
amazing.
lovely thing. I have never even thought about doing that.
Ray, we're working on the audio here. Can you bring your mic gain down a little bit?
Bring my mic gain down a little bit. Yes, give me a moment here.
I haven't figured out how to control that from my end just yet.
How's that? Is that any better? Hello.
I think it's about the same. So
It's about the same. Give me a moment.
Okay. I do not know how to bring it down from Zoom. Can I control it here? No, I can only mute.
No, hold on.
We're working on it, guys. Hang tight with us.
Well,
If not, Ray,
okay.
we're gonna wait a minute.
I can do,
Microphone,
just a minute.
Speaker.
Here, I'm gonna hold on. I got to take a photo so I remember the settings for when I record. I'm actually changing settings on my preamp for you, dude.
Oh my gosh, it's very nice.
But
of you.
only because it was your birthday yesterday.
Thank you very much.
All right, you tell me when it's good.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14,
Right
anything.
there. That's good. Try that.
Right there.
Yeah. Guys, you should be able to, that should be a little bit lower.
Are we
for
good
you all
there?
now. There we go. Apollo up. And then I'll bring
Yes.
myself up. We want to make sure it's dialed in for the reading. That's the most important thing. And make sure we're
Right.
dialed in for the reading. So now our levels up should be comparable with Ray's level. A, say something.
I'm saying something. Is that better? Is that
Yes,
better?
you
Is that
are.
better? Is that better? Is that better?
Yeah, that's fine. All right, so before we're going to let you guys adjust your volume. So what we're going to do, here's our agenda for the day. It's going to be great. We've said our hellos to you because you're all incredibly lovely, lovely people. We're going to have Ray read a section from Mount Fitz Roy that no one other than Ray and A and the Audible people have heard. So you guys will be the first to hear this. I'm going to take it completely out of context of where it is in the book, but those of you who are diehard fans of Siglerism should notice a couple of characters in this one, and we're looking forward to it. I also have not heard Ray read this yet in the regular audiobook.
Now I'm nervous.
Don't be nervous.
So it should be
I
very
have.
exciting. Ladies and gentlemen, move over to our fancy new graphic. Here is Ray Porter up on the big screen, getting ready to read to you. Ray, are you ready to rock?
Yes.
Okay. So guys, once Ray starts, if your volume is too hot, just turn it down on your end. We're gonna keep Ray nice and consistent and
Oh
lovely
my God, I'm
peaks in the
so
meter.
excited. I'm so excited.
And here we go. Ray, the stage is yours, sir.
Oh, man. Okay. Chapter 13, October 11th. Murray Longworth steered his boat northwest along the forested coast. It was overcast with intermittent drizzle. The chill air somehow slipped through his insulated clothes, feasted on his aching muscles and old bones. Most people would call the day miserable, but not Murray, because the worst day of fishing is better than the best day of work. And since he didn't work anymore, that meant every day on the water was a day stolen from the inevitable death that would eventually drag him down. Every day on the water was pristine, perfect, even the days where he was wet, cold, and shivering. He'd only been on the water for 2 hours, and he'd already landed a redfish, 2 stripers, and 3 croakers. The croakers were his favorite. He heard them in the live well, croaking away with their mournful, frog-like, "please release me" noises. He'd release them all right, in the frying pan. The actual fishing was the best part of his day, but what came next would be almost as satisfying. He'd probably get the boat back home around noon, clean his catch, then fry up the redfish and the croakers for a well-deserved meal that would chase the cold away. Hell, he already had a freezer full of fillets. Maybe he'd call the neighbors over and make it a lunchtime feast. The Johnsons had just moved in. Nice couple. Both retired school teachers. The Browns, Rob and Suzanne, had been coming to Florida for years, traveling from Missouri. Murray wasn't great friends with them by any means, but they were decent enough people. He would enjoy sharing his bounty. His boat wasn't anything special, just an old 16-foot mirror craft he'd picked up for a song, but it was his, and he loved it. Plenty of scuffs and scratches in the paint, plenty of dings in the hull, plenty of crusted-up bits of seaweed clinging to the surfaces. The boat sparkled in places from old fish scales that avoided notice until the sun hit them just so. In a small tray on the console just above the steering wheel and to the right of the fish finder that hadn't worked for a year, Murray's cell phone rang, the vibration rattling plastic against plastic. Probably Rob Brown already sniffing the air, detecting a future fish fry like a hungry Spider-Man detecting danger. Murray answered. "Hello." "Hello, sir." Murray Longworth's bladder let go. That happened from time to time. He could read all the literature there was about how it happened to many men. He could listen to doctors telling him there was no shame in it. None of the well-wishing dulled the humiliation, though. And it never would. Murray Longworth. taker of lives, both in person and from a distance. Murray Longworth, former deputy director of the CIA, former director of the DST. Murray Longworth, consultant to not one, not two, but 8 presidents of the United States of America. Murray Longworth, a man who had played an instrumental role in saving the life of everyone on the fucking planet. That was the old Murray. The new version? Murray Longworth, a geriatric wreck who pissed himself often enough that he had to wear a goddamn diaper. If getting old is a bitch, prostate cancer is a strap-on wearing dominatrix who doesn't bother asking for consent before she bends you over and drives it home. Murray had survived cancer surgery, of course, just like he'd survived so many other things in his life. Should he have survived it? Maybe. Maybe not. Pissing oneself was a definite mark in the not column. Age with dignity? Not for him. Sometimes Murray pissed himself because he'd had too much to drink. Sometimes because he was too far from a restroom when the urge hit. Sometimes for no reason at all other than that his body hated him. This time, however, he had a much better reason. The sound of that voice. Ender, Murray said. Jesus Christ. Is this line clean? Of course it was clean. Murray was retired. No one gave a damn what he did anymore. As far as I know, he said. Good. I prefer it if you didn't call me by that name anymore. How about you call me Pat? Pat, Murray said, the single syllable slipping out of its own accord. Pat? No, that wouldn't work. Pat was the kind of guy you got drunk with, gambled with, but who had a tendency to go all in on a pair of 7s, counting on the river card to deliver the goods. Pat got drunk and sometimes passed out on your couch during the Steelers-Ravens game. Pat would watch your dog for a few days while you took a well-deserved trip. In short, Pat was not the kind of guy who had over 50 confirmed kills. How did you get this number? Doesn't matter, O'Doyle said. I got it. What was it, 6 years since Murray had heard that man's deep growl? The past had returned and brought fear along for the ride. Chest gripping, intestine pinching fear. Because if this man, Ender or Patrick or O'Doyle or even fucking Pat, if this man wanted Murray dead, then Murray was dead. I'm old, Murray said. I've already had a couple of brushes with the Grim Reaper, even so. I have to know. Are you coming for me? There was a pause. Maybe O'Doyle was considering it. No, he said. A flood of relief. Some days, most days perhaps, Murray Longworth wished for death. He'd lived a long time. He'd done and seen it all. Now his body was failing him, one part after another. People weren't supposed to live this long. Dying wouldn't be so bad. Or so he told himself, before death itself gave him a ring-a-ding on the cell phone. What do you want? A favor, O'Doyle said. What kind of favor? Ever see the movie Blues Brothers? Such a strange question. Part of a normal conversation, almost. The kind of conversation you might have with Pat over a couple of beers in a corner bar. This wasn't normal, though. This was about as far from normal as one can get. Sure, Murray said. I've seen it. Why? Because I'm putting the band back together. I need you to find the other players for me. Other players? The guy had been fired from the Department of Special Threats. He'd been a pariah there. No one had liked him. What the fuck do you want with the DST, Pat? I don't work there anymore, and you certainly aren't welcome back. I'm not talking about the DST. Then what did he... A flood of faces that Murray had spent 20 years trying to block out. Sleepy, Landslide, Skylark, Curveball, Hatchet, Knuckles, Swampy, Bookworm, Mullet, Elgato, and, of course, Ender. I'm retired, Murray said. Have been for 3 years. I can't find those people anymore. Of course you can. Listen to me. I am out. What part of retired do you not get? They gave me a gold watch and a slap on the ass, not a security clearance to be named later. You're so full of shit I can smell you from miles away. O'Doyle said, You got old. You didn't mutate. You're the same guy I knew way back when. I'm calling in a favor from you. That means you call in favors from someone else. You still have connections. Use them. A pause. You used us, right? Murray closed his eyes as if they might stem the tide of heat rising to his face. I did, he said. I absolutely did. You will do this for me. This wasn't a favor. It was an order. Murray would obey just as O'Doyle had always obeyed. It was the least Murray could do. I'll get right on it. What O'Doyle wanted was no simple request. His team members didn't exist. Their pasts had been erased. It was like they'd never existed. That was the prerequisite for joining a squad that did very illegal shit. A squad of assassins that killed Uncle Sam's enemies, or sometimes a potential enemy of Uncle Sam, or sometimes the enemies of Uncle Sam's pals. Back then, Murray had believed in the job, in the cause. Now, maybe not so much. How many deaths had he ordered? Because of him, how many men and women never got the chance to retire, to buy an old fishing boat and shiver in the misty cold of dawn, watching the sun rise day after day? Murray. Yeah, I'm here. I'll get you what you want. This will square us. Then a sound even more frightening than the voice of Patrick Ender O'Doyle. His laugh. Not even close, old man. Not even in the ballpark of square. That shit wasn't my fault, Murray said, anger lacing his words. Anger at the past, anger at the present, anger at a life that seemed more and more empty every morning, that death had the fucking utter lack of courtesy to come a courting. Maybe, O'Doyle said. Maybe the powers that be took the decision completely out of your hands. They didn't, Murray, old sport, and you know they didn't. You could have done something, but you wanted to be done with it all. You wanted O'Doyle and his team of psychos to just go away. That's not why you owe me, O'Doyle said. That's not why you owe us. Even if you had nothing to do with it, you could have checked up on us. We went to the wall for you. Many times we got thrown to the wolves. You got to be the deputy director of the CIA. You could have kept in touch. You could have seen if your people were okay. You didn't. We weren't. I wasn't. Pissing oneself was humiliating. Thinking about what Murray had done, or hadn't done, was worse. Far worse. O'Doyle and his team, the no-see-ums they called themselves, had once worked for Murray. He'd sent them all over the world, covert missions to dozens of countries. Full deniability if they died, because the men and women that made up the no-see-ums had no records of any kind, no ties to America. Murray had made those histories vanish. Poof, a cloud of smoke, your past life is gone. Maybe that couldn't be done nowadays, what with the digitization. Maybe that couldn't be done nowadays, what with the digitization of every fucking thing there was, but back then it was possible. The no-see-ums had worked for him. They had killed at his command. They had died at his command, too. Murray had run a department that did not exist. The no-see-ums were that department's primary operating unit. Things started out fine. Kill a dictator here, eliminate a war criminal there. But the team had been too good at their job. Within a year, Murray was getting can't-be-denied requests from other departments. A monster had been born, and everyone and their cousin wanted to use that monster for their purposes. Then Banda happened. Bureaucracy tends to move at an agonizing, glacial pace. When the shit hits the fan, though, and things need to be quickly and efficiently swept under the rug, bureaucracy can put the proverbial pedal to the metal. The department that did not exist was shut down. Those that did have power, like Murray, pulled strings, made arrangements, cut deals. Murray found himself in a new position with the Department of Special Threats. Those that had no real power, like O'Doyle and his squad mates, were quietly left with a choice. Keep your mouth shut, or someone would shut it for you. Permanently. After Banda, when things had been shut down, Murray had been glad to wash his hands of it all. Shit happened, right? He'd done good work for the country, right? He'd earned a better position, right? He'd moved on. He hadn't looked back, and therein lay his shame. Murray had continued his climb up the CIA's promotion ladder, eventually becoming deputy director. He'd even had a shot at the top spot in the CIA, but that hadn't happened. He'd been offered a far more challenging role instead, director of the Department of Special Threats. He'd taken that position, and after a few years, he'd hired Patrick O'Doyle. Other than O'Doyle, Murray hadn't checked in on the other no-see-ums. He hadn't reached out to see if they needed help. He wasn't supposed to contact them, of course. His orders were to leave them be. He wasn't supposed to. But he should have. His people. He'd left them behind. For good. For the simple reason that they scared the living fuck out of him. Assassins, each of them with multiple unofficial kills to their name. The most frightening of them all, their boots-on-the-ground leader, Patrick Ender O'Doyle. "I'll do my best," Murray said. "I really will." "Good. And do it fast. I'll call you at this number in 24 hours. You will answer, won't you?" For the second time in mere minutes, Murray Longworth's bladder let go. Not as much piss this time, of course, but enough to bring embarrassment. "I will," he said. I will." "Good. Talk to you then." Patrick O'Doyle hung up. Murray had pissed himself the second time because his brain, experienced in the ways of the no-see-ums, had instantly put some pieces together. Their pasts were erased. His was not. O'Doyle had called Murray's personal phone, which meant it would be child's play for the big man to find out where he lived. So if Murray didn't do what he'd been asked to do, he pushed the thought away. A touch less than 24 hours to go. Time to make some calls of his own. Murray pushed the throttle forward and the fishing boat shot across the water, headed for the docks.
All right.
Oh my goodness, that was great.
I've worked on this book literally for years and years and years, and that's the first chance I've had someone else read it. One of the best, Ray, one of the best experiences of my writing career, right there.
I have to tell you, Ray. I have to tell you, I purposefully didn't. Scott hasn't heard any of the narration.
Oh,
I have.
Wow.
You know, I've worked with Andrew, and as
Sure.
you guys have, right? He has not heard any, specifically for this hopeful reason that you would come on and do that, and he was quite verklempt. It was very lovely.
I'm really happy. Thank you.
Oh, that was so lovely. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you,
You're
Ray.
welcome.
That was crushing. That was so good. Because I think this is pat myself on my own back. This is the best thing I've done yet, character wise, and
it's so full. It's so rich. It was such a pleasure to read it and to narrate it and to act it. There's so much depth to all of the relationships in the book. It's really a rewarding read. And basically what you just watched is how I narrate, including that glitch in the middle. This is what it is.
You had one flub in the whole thing. That was amazing.
Well,
Yeah.
You're so such a pro. It's ridiculous.
Right,
It's ridiculous.
and you just are like, going again.
You can't see the chat room, Ray, but the crew is raving about it. So I think
I'm glad.
people are delighted to see Murray again and hear your the portrayal of Patrick is pretty killer. But I'll say that, and we'll move on to some other stuff. That was awesome. That was so much fun.
Thank
dude.
you.
So
I'm
much
just
fun.
looking for one little thing.
Okay.
Tracy Shank, who is often in our chat room, she said
Yes.
this is like an early Christmas gift, and somebody else said it's like a master class in voice narration. And I think both things are
Thank
lovely
you.
and true, right? It's so hard. And I have a personal story. Is it time for personal stories?
Yeah, go ahead.
Always.
So you guys in the chat room will know this. Ray, you will, of course, recognize this. But a couple of years ago, I got an offer to record a couple of audiobooks for Casey Alexander, and I show up to record one of them and walk into the break room in the morning, and Ray is there. And he's like, wait a minute, what are you doing? Like, he knows exactly who I am. He knows exactly that what? Like, he's like, what? Why are you doing? Are you here? What are you doing? And
I was surprised. I was like, you're narrating? Cool.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. You were like, why are you here? Are you reading a Scott? They were like, what are you doing? And then I said, like, oh my God, I'm so nervous. I did voiceovers in college, and I've done a whole bunch of phone trees, and here I am about to record an audiobook. And you were like, all right, let's meet for lunch. Well,
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And you were so gracious and lovely, which you didn't have to do no matter what. You didn't have to do for a new narrator. You didn't have to do with somebody that you worked with as a narrator. You didn't have to do it all. And every single day for a week, you helped me.
I'm so glad to hear that. Thank you for telling me that.
It's such a great,
That's
and
super
I've
cool.
talked about it. Actually, we've been doing this since March, this SIGLERinPLACE
Yeah.
thing since March, just so that people have a place to come and have some fun a couple times a week since you can't go out.
Nice.
And
nice.
I've talked about it a couple of times. These guys in the chat room know this. It was such a graceful, giving thing that you didn't have any obligation to do, and it changed everything about my confidence and my ability. It was so nice.
I spent a long time doing theater, and from college on, and anybody who's ever been involved in like a college or even a high school theater program, knows that there's that instinct to like deconstruct, and people are very, very protective, about their stuff and all of that. And I never thought that was a good way to live. I never thought that was a good way to work.
Yeah.
When I started wanting to get into audiobooks, I remember I spoke to somebody who had a few titles, and I thought maybe he could help me or give me advice. And I said, I've been really considering getting into audiobooks. And he was like, oh yeah, you should. And he walked away.
Okay.
And it was like a really strong message to me, like, well, you'll get no help here. So And he's a brilliant narrator, by the way. I mean, the guy's amazing. I can't touch what he does, and I got nothing but good things to say about him. But, there was that, and it was a little like, oh, geez, okay. So I decided early on that I was going to try to be as welcoming and accommodating as I possibly could.
Okay.
Just because someone else is absolutely brilliant does not immediately magically strike me talentless. There are books that I see that friends and colleagues have narrated, and I'm like, oh, I wish I could have done that. But it's like, no, that one was for them.
Yeah.
I get mine, and I get to narrate things like this book, which was wonderful. And this is hard, from doing this.
For sure. And for me, I was a total newbie when you were the 2015 narrator of the year. And honestly, that I might be wrong. I don't think that ever matters to you in a personal interaction, not even one time. I don't think you ever approach anyone and be like, "Hi, I was the Audible 2000."
Why? I mean,
you never would. Yeah.
Yeah, there's just, there's so much more fun stuff to talk about,
Yeah, and it was I can't even tell you. I will cherish that my whole life.
That is really, really kind of you. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you.
I remember A calling me after that, like right after she's like, "Oh, this is gonna go way better than I thought." Ray's in the house. He's got my back.
I had rented like an Airbnb in Pasadena, and I literally texted Scott right after our first interaction, because we met in the morning, and you were like, "No, you need a room temperature water and an apple juice, and let me make you some tea. Let's do this and whatever." And then we went off to do our things in different studios, and I texted him, all caps, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God." And then I had to go to work with my director. And so that's all I did for the first 2 hours. He was like, "Oh my God, what? Do you need me? Should I drive up? What's going on?" Because all I had texted was OMG, 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 OMG. And then after a couple of hours,
what a lovely thing.
I was like,
what a lovely mystery.
Ray is here, and he's so helpful, and I'm so happy, and then whatever. And he was like, "Okay, just tell me when you get home. Just tell me later." It was great. I'm so grateful.
We rise together. You know what I mean? It's not. Yeah.
I mean, you're a rare breed there, though.
Let's before we continue, we're gonna pop over and talk about we always do a sponsor every week, you guys. Our sponsor is a nonprofit.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll be able to see Ray in this. We'll be able to hear Ray. So here we go. Oh, I do have Ray set up. You can see Ray. Oops,
there we
hold
go.
on.
Oh,
Let me get there. There we go. Okay, Ray, they can absolutely see. Go ahead, baby.
So you guys, you will already know this, having known that Ray was going to join us, and now that it is something he is allowed to talk about publicly.
Yes.
You guys know in 2021, Zack Snyder's Justice League will include Darkseid, and Ray Porter is Darkseid. That moment I was talking about, that weekend that I was talking about a couple of years ago, he, of course, had been home from that experience, and also knew that experience wasn't going to be there. So we talked a little bit about it. This charity, this is the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. And in case you guys are unaware, Zack Snyder left the Justice League film and post-production because he had a family tragedy. And in November, we broadly learned that the family tragedy was that one of his children, his 20-year-old daughter, Autumn, took her own life. And so there is this effort.
Oh, sorry, guys. That's from the website. Hold on, baby.
Whoop.
Just going to close that out?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there is this charity. If you go to bit.ly/Autumn Snyder, you will get to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention's Memorial Fund for Autumn Snyder, which is the Snyder family's work to try and honor Autumn and try and help people from not making that choice. So
it is already. I mean, the fans of sort of the release the Snyder Cut fans have already raised a wonderful amount of money for this really worthy cause. Through a variety of different ways, and basically any donation, any help at all makes a massive difference. So thank you so much for thinking of that charity.
Of course,
while I was on. I'm really, really honored to be a part of that.
Absolutely.
thank you
and
for
as
that.
always, you guys on SIGLERinPLACE, if you can share this link or donate yourself, any amount helps. And we're headed into
Also,
the holidays, which is,
as I'm sorry to interrupt,
of
but just
course.
as pardon me, as a sidebar, anybody who's into like the whole Justice League thing, like, well, let's see, Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Yes.
There's T-shirts. There's all sorts on a website called inktothepeople.com, and shirts purchased on that will say that portions of the proceeds are going, or 100%, it depends, are going to AFSP. So
Great.
Yeah.
that's another way to support and get some pretty cool garments.
And you
That
guys
is-
who are in the chat room now, you know that this is a very difficult time of year for lots of people, regardless of whether or not there's a pandemic. So there's several reasons that this is an important thing to think about. And you should check in with your friends, even the ones who you think are doing fine. Just say, hey, I'm out here if you need me, because often that's all people need to share. I have a friend who's so close, she's a sister, who I now can do that with, and it saves us both. It helps us both. So always do that. Always check in. Always know you're better here than not here.
All right,
Be
let's
willing to ask uncomfortable questions.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's one very very good stuff. But Ray brought up Darkseid. We
Yeah,
absolutely
we got to talk about Darkseid.
we have to, Ray. We've got to talk a little bit about that because I know.
Sure.
If you maybe give everybody an overview. You have been waiting a long time. There was a time you couldn't even discuss it, and now this is parallel to Mount Fitz Roy, which I've been working on for a decade. Now you get this giant moment in the sun that you have worked hard for and earned, and it's finally coming. What is it? Tell everybody what that's about.
Well, I mean, I got to say, it's been a journey. It's been a real roller coaster. You know, I at the time was married to someone who worked on the film in a technical capacity. I went over there because I could just bring all my recording gear with me and narrate audiobooks, you know, where the film was being made. Zack found out I narrate audiobooks, and he likes to hear the script rather than to just sit and read it.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, as you can attest, you know, it's a very different experience to hear something, especially if you wrote it, than it is having
it's totally
written
different.
it, right? It's a weird sort of out of body thing, but it changes it. So anyway, so I was reading the script to him and reading rewrites and doing all that sort of thing. And the next thing I know, he tags me to play this character, this kind of important character in the pantheon of DC Comics. And I was really, really excited. I did it. And then he had to leave the production and a new director took over, and that new director made a lot of changes. And I had, you know, I was told that I was no longer in the film. So that was, you know, ebb and flow. And the movie came out. I actually contacted, because after the movie came out, fans were not happy. They felt like it was incomplete. It wasn't right. So very slowly, in kind of dribs and drabs and little pockets, you know, here and there, people started making noises about wanting to see Zack's version of the film. And the Snyder Cut movement started. Now, I didn't know anything about that, but I did know that there were various people who were conjecturing that it was a different film. And people were saying, oh, yeah, you know, and I heard that Darkseid was supposed to be in the movie. And then immediately I'm reading on blogs, like everybody's like, well, who's it going to be? You know, I think it should be so-and-so. I think, you know, and all kinds of like amazing, famous names, you know, people you've heard of. And I couldn't say anything. And I contacted Warner Brothers, and I also contacted DC, and I was like, can I say that I played the part? And they were like, we really prefer you didn't, since you're, you know, not in the film. I was like, oh, okay, fine. And then the movement started gathering more and more steam. And then someone very high up leaked to someone in the sort of movie press that it was me that played the role. Now, I still didn't have permission to like come out and say, you know, but instantly these fans, rather than, you know, the immediate reaction being, well, who the hell is this? You know, I mean, I did read one person, I think it was on Reddit, was like, no, there's no way. I want a real actor. You know?
Oh, come on.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Hello,
and, you
Almost
know,
Famous.
I mean, I understand that. They think a real actor is an actor they've heard of.
Sure.
Because how many
So-
people heard of Andy Serkis before
Right.
he did?
How many people had heard of Gal Gadot before she
Exactly.
became
Yeah.
Wonder Woman?
Exactly.
Zach has a really, really good eye, and because he is such a good person and so committed to story and all of that, I mean, he makes good choices. I mean, I hope he made a good choice. We'll see when the movie comes out, won't we?
Yeah.
He made a
But
good
anyway,
choice.
so there was a lot of like welcome. Nobody was like repelled by the idea. Everybody was very welcoming, even though I couldn't really say anything. And then finally, Zach showed surprised fans at an event that he did that it was in fact going to be released on HBO Max in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And I texted him immediately after. It was like, congratulations, I'm so happy for you. Can I finally come out of the closet as Darkseid? And he said, yes. So I went on Twitter and went, all right, finally. I'm Ray Porter. I played Darkseid in Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Oh my God.
It was lovely, though. That tweet is so lovely. And I love that you haven't pinned it because I think you should pin it. Absolutely
Pin
pin
it?
it. Pin it to the top of your Twitter stream because you just
Oh
said,
my
like,
God, yes.
now that I am allowed to tell you, I would
Now
like
that I
to
can
say,
say,
hello, I am Ray Porter. It's such
Yeah.
a lovely tweet. Like, dudes, I know you have been asking and I have been contractually obligated. So here I am telling you what I am now allowed to tell you. It's such
Yeah.
a charming, lovely thing.
Well, it's been really, really fun. It's certainly opened up a whole world to me that I was aware of, but was never really a part of. And I mean, I got to say, the fans, the people really committed to this film, and just sort of wonderful comic book nerds in general have taken me under their wing and have, welcomed me. And I'm so grateful and I'm so humbled.
It should be a
And-
blast. I mean, if you have, what kind of personal event party do you have planned? How do you prepare when it's on HBO Max? Finally, the release date.
Well,
You have to
I
put
hope
some
the
thought into
quarantine's
this.
over, and
Me
there can be a
too.
night of drunken revelry surrounding it.
We would totally come up and party with you for
Hell
sure.
yes, and bring a guitar or two, please. Although
Yeah.
I may have one or two you could borrow.
I'll come loaded with the bear.
But anyway, yeah, I mean, obviously, if we're still in lockdown, I'll sit at home in a bathrobe and a tiara and just watch it and go, yay.
Well,
So-
you've got that good hair. Tiara on me, it's just not going to work out very well.
Oh, I'm
tried.
sure we can
I've
find
tried.
something for you.
I bet I think a nice laurel, a nice like Roman
be
laurel
fabulous.
would be good.
Be fabulous.
Which that also sort of makes him seem a little like who's the guy in
Caesar?
Princess Bride?
Julius Caesar?
No, who's the
She
you
says I
never-
look like Julius Caesar. I like it.
You never engage in a land war in Asia.
Oh, yeah,
that
yeah.
guy.
Oh yes, Wallace Shawn.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
So I was wondering if I could ask you a couple of questions because
You can ask me pretty much anything except math.
Fair. We do have a handful of, like I said, we do this SIGLERinPLACE twice a week. It's just it's just a happy time for people to hang out without politics or whatever. But we do have a lot of writers in the room, a lot of actors in the room, a lot of creators in the room. So I was hoping I could ask you a couple questions, if that's okay
Privileged
with
to
you.
be here with them.
Oh, good. Oh, so you guys, I never said this, but if you need any introduction to Ray Porter, check out Ray Porter everywhere you go. Just Google Ray Porter. He's 2015 audiobook or Audible audio narrator of the year.
Yeah.
He's an Earphones award-winning narrator. He's an Audie award-winning narrator. All these
Nominated. Never won an
okay.
Audie. I'm the Susan Lucci of the Audies. I've been nominated a bunch, never won.
A primary
Definitely
narrator
gonna happen.
for Jonathan Mayberry's books, which
Yeah,
a lot
you
of people
guys,
in the
of
room love
course.
Jonathan Mayberry.
Well, Jonathan is the one who essentially, he wrote to me, he said, hey, you're going to get asked to narrate a book by my friend Scott Sigler. He's an old road dog of mine. You should look him. I was like, great. If, on your word, hell yeah. And, Earthcore, man, how fun was that?
It's
It
one
was
of these things
amazing.
I say a lot to Scott. Like he was you both. It was great because of course, you guys all know I'm the admin kind of, right? So every once in a while, Ray would be like, I mean, we're still doing Earthcore, right? He'd send an email
Yeah.
like, we're still doing Earthcore, right? And I would go tell Scott like, hey, Ray just dropped in and said whenever he really wants to do that book. And he'd be like, oh, Jesus, I hope Ray wants to do that book. And I'm like, I
I'm
just
glad I
said
did.
he did that. So it's a lovely thing back and forth. But
It coincided. I don't know if you, I'm sure you do know this story, but it coincided with, I was over in England
I thought
and
so, yeah.
trying to get to know people. And my son plays ice hockey, and I found a team for him to play up in Milton Keynes. And I was up there just kind of getting to know various hockey parents. And one guy came over to me, and, you know, eventually it turned into like, what do you do? And I said, oh, I'm an actor and I narrate audiobooks. Oh, you're an audiobook narrator? Yeah. Have you ever done any Scott Sigler? I'm like, whoa, funny you should mention that. Yeah, I'm supposed to.
And it's funny because I know you did
so
that. You did part of that at, I think, when you were in England.
I recorded Earthcore in England.
Yeah, and Scott just asked me that by Post-it note during our cast, and I was like, no, yeah, I think so. But I remember that story, and you said, oh, hey, I just met this guy, and I was like, yeah, let me send him a bunch of books for his kid, and we did that. And,
that's great, fantastic.
Yeah, and it's super fun because those tiny little connections are a huge part of Scott's whole fan base, and like we are very interactive with our fans, and I think that's also
Most
true
definitely.
of you. In we had told the fans you had a little when the fires were up in Oregon. We had a little bit of concern for you because I know that you're a big you're a big part of your big family. Your chosen family is Ashland. So
20 years there, yeah. And so like the Blackstone Audio people and all of those, I mean, good friends of mine, you know, suddenly were rendered homeless by that thing. So it was hard.
Yeah.
But everybody's connected all over the world, and it's kind of a wonderful thing. You know,
yeah, it's nice that we're getting
to be
closer.
in an ice rink in Milton Keynes and have somebody say, "Oh God, I'd love it if you did some Scott Sigler." I was like,
That guy actually ran.
I'm in the middle of doing it right now. What is this?
That guy Facebooked me today, as a matter of fact.
Oh,
He's
did
like,
he?
oh,
Did
Ray's
he?
going to be on. I remember talking to Ray. I'm like, yeah, that's one of my favorite stories, dude.
I love it. Yeah, it was great. So I do have a couple of questions
Of course,
that I
yes.
don't know at all about. So I tried to think about things that I'm so blessed to have had a lot of interaction with you and ask all the big sort of public questions. But there are a few things like, do you have a preference between audiobook, stage, film, TV?
Oh, that's a good question. I like working. I will say that like anything that you love, you know, you kind of want balance. And while I love doing audiobooks and I'm very grateful that I get to do them, I'm you know, seriously grateful every time I get a book. It's like, oh, good. You know, doing the Sandman in London with that group of actors all in the same room together was magic, you know, because we were creating something and creating off of each other in a way. I mean, like what you just saw in that scene between Murray and Pat. I'm generating that myself, you know, that interaction. And so to be able to play with someone is marvelous. And I do love that.
And
I love stage. It has its challenges. I love, you know, camera stuff, TV and film. They have their challenges, narration, all of that. I mean, I'm grateful that I get to do it. I don't know if I necessarily have a preference, but I will say it's a lot more fun to play with people.
Yeah, that's a beautiful answer as a creator because it's pretty obvious if you watch you in Sons of Anarchy or you watch you know, recently this summer it was the 20th anniversary of Almost Famous and you played Rhodey in Almost Famous, right? And I was like, oh, I have to watch Almost Famous. Because I watched it and I loved it, but I didn't know you and I didn't know that, right? Because you know you're not Kate Hudson in that. You're you. And
No,
so I watched
we have
it
similar
again.
hair, but I'm not Kate Hudson.
And so I watched it again when you tweeted that gorgeous tribute. You were like, best summer of my life, you know? And I watched it and it's beautiful because I knew you at that moment as an audiobook narrator mostly. I haven't watched Sons of Anarchy myself. I knew you acted in that. I knew you acted in other things, but I hadn't seen it myself. And
Right.
And watching that and knowing that, you know, sort of knowing that you also, that the thing I love you, at the time I loved you for was audiobook narrating. And it's seamless. It's you're just as committed to creating in that environment. And it was lovely.
Well, it's, you know, people ask a lot, like, what was it like doing that film? And the best answer I can give is, I've dropped my glasses, by the way, under the chair. That's not the answer that I give. But the best answer that I give is, you know, the way that it feels when everybody in the band is together and laughing and playing guitar and doing all of that other stuff. That's how it always felt. We hung around, we laughed, we played guitar, and sometimes they'd put a camera on us, or sometimes we'd have to pick up our guitars and go sit in front of a camera and just continue doing it. It was joyous. And that's another of my favorite directors, Cameron Crowe, as a storyteller.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a grace to have Cameron Crowe's movies in our life now that he's no longer in our life, kind of thing, is spectacular.
Well, there's a lot of legacy to that for creators and authors, screenwriters, actors, directors, etc. You make that thing that becomes iconic to a certain group of people, and it endures beyond you. It is a living tombstone that people who didn't even know when you were around eventually will someday discover. Is out of the stuff that you have done, all the different formats, when you are gone, dead and buried, cremated, whatever you prefer, sir. When you are gone, what do you think?
No.
What
I
thing
want
do you
my
think would be
remains.
good?
I want my remains scattered over Disneyland, but I don't want to be cremated. Sorry. What do I want to be remembered for?
Or what do you think out of the stuff you've done that you would be if there's an afterlife and you were in it and somebody who's not even born yet discovers one of your works down the road, what would you be like? Oh, that's awesome. I'm so happy because of that.
It's going to sound like a cop-out of an answer, but honestly, in thinking about it, I've got a list of like 8 or 10 different things, and that makes me incredibly happy to think that there's a number of things that, as an epitaph, I would be very happy about. That I've never actually had to ponder that. It's really interesting you asked that question, because now I'm in this weird philosophical fugue state where I'm like, no, seriously though, I'm incredibly grateful. Incredibly grateful. I mean, I worked my ass off to get to any place that I am. Wasn't easy or anything like that, but my God, I'm really, really grateful. There's a number of things that I'm really, really proud of. Your books, the Bobiverse, Jonathan's
so
books,
Bobiverse is so good.
Peter Klein's
books. Terminus is glorious.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, I mean, so many books and small little TV appearances that I'm very proud of, and movies I'm proud to have been a part of. There's a lot, and I'm really, really grateful for that.
And I would say I love that you answered that way, because I keep wanting to break in and say, you guys, if you're not aware, read the Bobiverse or listen to the Bobiverse.
The Bobiverse is so good.
Listen to everything Peter Klein's did that Ray narrated, and also the X Heroes, which you didn't narrate all of.
I didn't, but great books.
Great books. Like listen to I texted you or emailed you last year sometime because I was listening to a nonfiction book about cybersecurity. And I was
Kevin
like,
Mitnick's books.
Kevin Mitnick's books. And Kevin Mitnick is a brilliant, good human, right? I had to stop listening to them when I walk the dogs and stuff because there were so many notes I wanted to take about being safer in cyberspace.
Yeah, he's a really, 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 really smart man. And he wrote a book that, Ghost in the Wires is as tense as any espionage thriller in places.
Except it's for real, and he really
Except
did
it
that.
really happened.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, that was great. And also, I will say, we have had the lovely moment where when we first started to date, which of course you guys all know, and Ray, like we didn't date. We were co-workers for a long time, and then we started to date. And one of the things that Scott gave me when we started to date was watching Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And then we have a moment where we're watching that, and I'm like,
yeah.
Isn't that right? Isn't that right? It was great. It's just such a lovely, nice grace to have. I don't know. Every time I see you creating, I know that that's going to be nice. I know that I'm going to enjoy that. So there's the tip off
really
where
kind.
like, oh, there you are on the screen, and Always fucking Sunny in Philadelphia, which is crazy pants all the time.
Yeah, I've gotten to do some really fun things, again, just gratitude, and to me, the most important thing, the thing that I always talk about actors, talk about two actors. They're like, do you have any advice for a younger actor? You know, and the one thing I always say is never stop noticing and never stop enjoying what you're doing. If you ever lose the capacity to be even a little bit thrilled as you're driving through the gates at Paramount or as you're, you know, whatever.
So good.
Then you're missing out. You're depriving yourself of a hell of a lot of joy. You should always enjoy that, because there's plenty of stuff. Being an actor, there's plenty of times that are kind of not fun, that are sort of scary and uncertain and, well, you know, all that other stuff. You should always manage to be joyous. I mean, God, I can remember being on Paramount, on the Paramount lot doing a show, and I was adjacent to a Star Trek thing and just like trying to see, you know, just to catch a glimpse of even anybody in a Starfleet uniform, you know, because it's so exciting.
Yeah.
I mean,
That'd be pretty sweet.
I will say we had this moment, Scott and I had this moment a handful of years ago in New York. We were in New York to talk contracts about, I think it was the Alive trilogy.
Okay.
And Scott, as you know and have discussed, is a bass guitarist. And
Oh, yeah.
so we had, like, we'd done our meetings in the morning. We'd done the political lunch thing where you go have lunch with whoever. And then I was like, okay, so I grew up in New York City. We are 4 blocks away from, like, the music district where Rebel is and all the guitar shops are and all that stuff. And he was like, let's do this. And we walk into a guitar shop and Jason Momoa is picking out guitars.
oh, that's cool.
It was so
I
cool.
have this moment. We walk in and I'm like, I think I'm on the phone or texting something. So he goes in first to look at guitars and stuff. And I come in and Scott is, and it's, you know, it's this big. The whole
very
store
tiny.
is this big because it's in Chelsea,
it's
right?
Smaller
It's this
than,
big.
It's smaller than his shoulders. That's how small it is.
Yeah.
And I walk in and I'm like texting, and I look up to see Scott, but I happen to see Jason Momoa first talking to whoever owns the place or whatever is selling stuff, and and then I look at Scott and Scott is like this. Like, be cool. And I was not cool, but Jason Momoa was turned away from me, and then he walked outside because he wanted to buy something in the window. And when he came back in, I was right at the front door, and he, like, of course, he's a giant human being, and he was like, shaboom! Yes. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. And I literally do this, like,
He was a very nice guy.
like, I have no
Very
idea
nice
what
guy.
to do, and he knew it.
He
knew
is such a good guy.
Such a
He's so
lovely dude.
kind, and he's also huge and joyous and
so
loud, and, you know, I love Jason. He's
my favorite moment of that particular experience was you look at him and he looks at you and he's got this he's got the smile on his face like, yes, I am Jason Momoa. Yes, you can say hi if you want to. And it was just like open and happy.
But he was buying guitars, I think, for his kids or something. It was he, and then I had this
yeah.
beautiful moment because you were totally right. He did that, and if you got to do the Jason Momoa thing, let's do that. And then instead, he got a phone call and he picked up the phone and he's like, yeah, no, I'll bring the coleslaw. I'm not even lying. That's what he said. No, I didn't forget. I'll bring home the coleslaw or whatever. And to be honest, I know this is a tie-in with Justice League, and I know that's not the point, but your ethos of being somebody who inspires creatives, I feel is quite similar to that you're very gracious and you're very giving and you're very willing. And that's a rare thing. Sometimes people get kind of, you know, a little
It's
closed off.
exhausting. I'll tell you, I had my first fan experience, you know, like at a con in a very limited way because of coronavirus, but in San Antonio, Texas. And it was wonderful. And the promoters were brilliant. And the people that I was there with were so fun and so great. And I can't wait to do it again. But for my first experience, I got there and they were like, okay, we need you to autograph some pictures. And I signed my name 1,000 times.
Yep.
And then, and you know this from book signings, you know, you get to a point where you forget your own name.
Oh yeah.
Some of those pictures look like I just threw a Sharpie at a photo.
That's why my autograph now is just my first name, because after the first several thousand, you're writing the last name, like that's just a line. That doesn't matter. So now it's just
my
Scott.
Lord.
It's easy.
And then interacting with people, and you want to be present and give something of yourself, and you know, you want to make sure they walk away having felt better for the interaction. It's a responsibility. At the end of the day, you're wiped, you know. And so I understand when big famous names are like, don't have time for that because they simply don't have the energy.
Yeah, and fans can at times be a little bit overexcited.
A little
we shall
much,
say.
sure.
But
Yeah.
the thing is, there's two ways to handle that. And you do it, and Ray, you do it. And I've seen a lot of people do it very well. I work for Adam Savage. He does it well, too, where you're like, cool, I am not all in with you, but I'm definitely all in with your enthusiasm. Let's create a thing that works for both of us.
It's setting healthy boundaries and appreciating what people are doing and just like, no, okay, I'm not going to go there, but on.
And it's super nice because the other option you have, which is well within your rights, is to be like, sorry, I can't talk right now. That's totally within your rights. But it changes somebody, it's weird because it will not change their fandom necessarily for you to be like, sorry, you don't have time for that. If you were like, hi, you're a jerk, that would have consequences. But just saying, so sorry, you don't have time, won't change their fandom. But you saying, oh goodness, it's so nice. Thank you so much. You're so, I appreciate it. Gives them a thing that they would never have another way. And it's a gracious, lovely thing.
That's the responsibility, I did a Shakespeare play with Tom Hanks a while back.
Cool.
And as you can imagine, there are one or two fans who like Tom Hanks. And just watching the way that he was with people when they were interacting is something that I've really taken to heart. And it is a responsibility, if you are the kind of person who wants to leave a place a little bit better than you found it, you do what you can, in a fan situation. Yes, there's been one or two experiences that have been a little like, okay, I'm not going to go there with you, but, everything else, defo, I'm right here. And you just set healthy boundaries, The thing is I can't really make a list of every famous person that has ever been kind to me.
That's good.
But I can chapter and verse remember the ones who haven't. Yeah. And what a terrible thing to put in someone's head.
Yeah.
And what an unfortunate thing to do to your.
Well, the other thing is, honestly, I'm going to come with some notion of entitlement. I wear clothes that aren't mine and say words that were written by someone else. And somebody has decided to take a moment out of their day to come and acknowledge that they like that is an absolute privilege and a responsibility.
Totally. Yeah, it is.
Well, we are almost out of time, but I will say, definitively speaking, that is rarefied air. And I'm so grateful for it. I'm grateful for creators like you who are genuinely proud of themselves, pleased with their career and their fandom, but also gracious about, I know in your life you're a fan, right? I know there are things you love. You love guitar, you love cars, there's all these things.
You should have seen me at McCabe's Music in Santa Monica when Richard Thompson walked in.
Oh man.
I nearly Murray Longworth to my trousers.
So I love that creators who give so much joy to people can also enjoy the idea of giving that joy away and being gracious about it. So thank you so much for joining us. It's so special.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're getting a lot of thanks in the chat room. Basically, I was like, anybody get last questions for Ray? They're like, just tell them that was awesome.
Yeah. Thank you.
Over and over
Thank
again.
you all. Thank you all for taking a
minute
to listen to me ramble.
Oh,
I appreciate it.
So good.
One of my favorite comments, somebody, my friend Shannon said, this was way better than the McRib coming back, which is also important.
Oh my God. Now that's high praise.
It is high praise, yeah.
I don't know what kind of meat it is, but it's pressed into the shape of a rib and I'm going to eat it.
And there's several pickles on it.
2020, the year the McRib came back.
Ray, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm absolutely delighted that again, I work so hard in that book and get to hear it coming out of your mouth. I'm like, you know what? That's not that bad.
It was a birthday present.
That book's not that bad at
all. It
all.
was absolutely a birthday
Happy belated birthday and congratulations on the upcoming release.
Oh, we're pumped.
It's a great book. It was so fun to do, and I'm looking forward to more.
Yeah, we can't wait.
Love you,
man.
man.
Talk to you soon. Love you so much.
All the best.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
We'll go back to Maine here, Sugar Plum. And one meeting for all. There we go. Ray is out. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to finish this up.
You
great
guys,
crowd in
what
tonight. Great crowd.
Super fun show.
I'm super pumped. That was, without doubt, one of the best experiences in my writing career. Because you're like, dude, I've read these words every friggin' sentence. I'm not gonna 1,000 times. I'm not gonna exaggerate. And watch it get turned over into the hands of a professional who presents it in his or her own way and just crushes it, you're like, wow, that was awesome.
And I will tell you guys, the thing that I said on air there is absolutely true. I have heard quite a goodly amount of that book, but Scott has not. And that wasn't planned because we knew we were going to do this. That's just normally the way it is. It's my job to do that. But as soon as we knew that we were going to do this, I was like, oh my goodness, this will be the first time that Scott hears it and the first time you guys hear it. And it didn't disappoint. It was the best thing ever.
I'm going to go get drunk and have a good night. That's what I'm going to do. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go to our wrap-up phrase and get the heck out of Dodge.
So
go ahead, baby.
as you guys know, anything you want to see on this at Sigler in Place. I know a lot of you guys sent in Siglebrations and questions and comments for this show. We're probably going to get to some of that on Thursday because Thursday is our book birthday, so we'll talk a whole bunch about that. I didn't forget. I do want to say, if Rob Otto was out there, I forgot to wish him a happy birthday on Thursday because they share a birthday, and I screwed up. He's our movie maven, and I didn't say happy birthday, so I'll do it again on Thursday. But send anything you want to info@emptyset.com, and I promise we will get to it. You can send in content ideas for Sigler in Place. You can send in questions for Sigler in Place. You can send in nonprofit sponsor ideas for Sigler in Place, and that's info@emptyset. And we will be back on Thursday, December 3rd.
Which is Mount Fitz Roy's book birthday. Yes! I'm gonna put my author feet in the stirrups, and I'm gonna fire out a book, baby, for all of you. You may get splattered with some random book fluid, but it's okay. It's going to be worth it.
Now I'm a little uncomfortable, but okay, we're going to go do that. That's fine. Until then, you guys know it. We want you. Please, please, please stay safe.
And the news spike is here. Science told you it would come. It's here. Science wasn't lying. Other people were, but science wasn't. So that means we want you to stay smart.
We want you to stay or get science.
And for the love of science, wear a goddamn mask. Be social distant as much as possible. The worst is yet to come, ladies and gentlemen. We want you to stay safe. We want you to come back every Tuesday and Thursday.
And we want you to stay informed.
Stay informed. You guys are fantastic. Now we're going to give you the big kiss off. I'm mad now that we hung up on Ray. I wish Ray could have been here. I should have got a kiss off from Ray. I screwed that up. I wish I had Ray here.
I mean, it was the best
big
thing.
Kiss off. I'm sorry about that.
It was so fun.
I'm a writer. I'm not a video producer. It's not what I do. Let's go and go off here, baby. Off, and I'm do two hands. You do two hands. One for you, one for Ray. All right.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, good night. You're fantastic. We love you all. Here we go.
Kissing me on the cheek.